Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Alright. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Sid Part 2, joining me today is...
Hey, I'm that Matt kid. God damn it.
And a geek for fun as well.
That's right.
So, since Alfie's sitting here talking about why he thinks CGI is terrible and will always be inferior to 2D animation, and his snobbery takes on animation, let's go ahead and talk about what we're talking about tonight. Matt, what are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about Promare, which is an anime movie by Studio Trigger, known for Kill la Kill and Little Witch Academia and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, I've been kind of on like a Trigger kick lately. Like, I don't know why. Like, recently I went back and I rewatched Little Witch Academia and Brand New Animal, which was like their another one of their like Netflix animes. Because I'd always been a fan of Kill la Kill. I like Kill la Kill a lot, but I had never seen Promare. I decided to watch it, and I thought it was really fun. So I wanted to talk about it. And I was surprised that Alfie had not seen it, but maybe I'm just...
Well, of course he didn't watch it. He hates all CGI anime. It's like his holy grail, or it's his crusade. He just despises any kind of animation that uses CGI.
Is that true, Alfie? Do you hate it
that,
all?
That is really true. It's
Can't even get down with like Pixar or anything.
Well, it's again, those are just what they are. But like, they'll never visually be as appealing to me as like one of the 2D animated Disney films or something like that. Like, I think Hercules looks better than every single fucking Pixar thing or something like, by leaps and bounds. But this is one of those things. Like, I'm such a fucking snob with this shit. I'm such a elitist. Goddamn, go back to my digital pencils and shit, like the snobbery. So for me to look at this and be like, this is fucking gorgeous. They had to knock it out of the park for this, and yeah, this is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of those things where the exceptions to the rule, I think, have always been historically, going off again, one of my other favorite works of fiction, Spider-Verse, is the blending of the 3D elements with 2D elements and playing with it so it doesn't just feel models on a rig. You're playing with frame rate, you're playing with layers and dimension. You're using it without it just being cheaper. Like, you're using it without it just losing the... Sometimes with 3D models and such, there's obviously a lot of care and time that gets put into the models themselves and making them expressions, and there's so many talented people making these things. So I don't want to pretend like, oh, it's just a lazier way for things it is. No, to do these things, you have to be incredibly talented and skilled in ways I can't even imagine. They're artists all the same. It's just for preference, me being an artist that knows 2D art and that kind of style, I can appreciate more artistic flares and stuff a little bit more easier to my eye in those. It's just where my passions lie, so I've always got a bias towards that. So when you can find a way to take 3D art and integrate it with really stunning 2D animation and make them seamlessly transition from one to the other, and color and shade and light the 3D models in a way where they can almost trick your brain into, is that 2D? Is that 3D? You're not quite sure. It makes it seamless. I always think that's something that the anime industry, in particularly, since the 2010s, has really kind of been moving towards. And there's a really, like Matt would probably be able to point out, there's a lot of cringy examples of like something like the Berserk anime, where it's like
God.
you haven't figured out how to make this look good at all yet, but yeah, I know what you're attempting. And then you get to something like this, where they absolutely nail it, and they manage to blend the two in a way that gives you an experience you haven't seen visually before. So I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you look at like the 90s like Spider-Man show, for example, that was using CGI for a lot of like backdrops and stuff like that, and the way that it takes you out of it the minute you see it, like it instantly takes you out. And then you fast forward to something like this, where obviously the technology is better, but also the visual flair and style that Trigger brings allows these things to coexist simultaneously. And it reminds me of like, it's almost like the same trick that stuff like Jurassic Park was pulling, like during the advent of CG, where you're going to be using CG and you're also going to be using practical effects, but you're switching between them and using them in such a way where it almost sort of tricks your brain, and you're never really quite sure which one you're looking at. And so even when it is clear that it's CG, you just sort of accept it. And this kind of hits on that same way, where it never doesn't look gorgeous, and even when you can tell it's CG, it blends so seamlessly that it just feels like part of the whole package. So I think that's a good enough place to start, because I think we can all agree, unless Ian's going to be a contrarian, that this is fucking gorgeous to look at.
I'd prefer if they just went full 3D and didn't try to appease the lesser minds that appreciate 2D animation. I'm about looking forward and going into the future, and not sticking with the past just because of nostalgia's sake and because some people refuse to modernize. That's just me. I understand that some people are just hopelessly pathetic and will always choose to be. But no, I mean, it looks pretty good. I think you guys are being maybe a little overly kind to the integration of the CG being seamless with the 2D. Though I don't think that it's a lack of talent or a lack of knowing how to do that, because there are certainly points at which it is seamless. I think it's actually a disservice to call it seamless, though, because to me, some of the more interesting things that this does is when it's intentionally telegraphing, I guess would be the word, that it's CGI, and when it's 2D. I guess just to jump right into the beginning of the film, I find it really interesting that whenever we see the world as it was, and just for sake of argument, we'll pretend that before, or in the prologue to the film, when you first start seeing the people spontaneously combust, that's just meant to be our world as it is now, and then the event happens and people start blowing the fuck up into purple and blue fire. And then you get like your first taste of the modern world after that, and suddenly everything is CG. And anytime we go back to the past, anytime we talk about the main characters, whose name I've already forgotten, unfortunately, his past, his memory of being saved as a child, yada yada, we see that it's all rendered in 2D again. Like the buildings and stuff almost, I'd say like 99% of the time throughout the movie are all 3D, unless you're in the past, then they're suddenly 2D. So I think that's a really intelligent move, and I don't think it's trying to be seamless. I think it is trying to show a sense of uniformity, of advancement, sometimes like a cold, calculated nature, particularly with a lot of the architecture being in CG, and then when it wants to show things being more chaotic, more crazy, is when it telegraphs the 2D animation a lot harder.
Yeah, for sure. I guess, yeah, I mean, you're right. I guess seamless maybe isn't the word I'm looking for. I suppose I just mean the CGI blends with what they're trying to do in a way that feels natural. It
doesn't stand out. Yeah, natural, I think, is a good one. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't look haphazard.
Yeah.
I think would be a good way to put it. because yeah, your example of like CGI in cartoons. I mean, Spider-Man the Animated Series did it. Justice League did it. A lot of the DCAU movies have done it, and sometimes it is just cheaper. They usually do it for what you'd call volumetric things, cars, buildings, spaceships, yada yada, because it's a whole hell of a lot easier to just make a 3D model of a car in a city street and then have a camera follow that around, as opposed to animating that in 2D, because then you're drawing every frame or you're doing different techniques and stuff, and it's kind of cumbersome if it's not like something that's worth the resources for the picture itself. So I don't know, CG as an art form for animation over 2D, I think is like definitively one. If we're talking about like which one is more usable and better to do, because I mean, I'd personally usually have like more films than fewer out of a studio or whatever. But I don't mind seeing elements of 2D survive and integrated in. I think that makes a lot more sense because you tend to get a lot more personality more easily out of 2D animated characters than anything else. If CG is better at volumetrics and objects and vehicles, 2D still pretty damn good, if not better, at characters. And so I think it's a smart way to blend them, because obviously there are moments where a lot of the characters are CG, and then there are moments where it's, if not directly 2D, it's almost like drawing over the model, I'd say. Yeah. Interesting film. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting with the visuals makes a lot of sense, because Trigger is a company that, like, I just really love their visual style. They walk this line between, you know, obviously they are very much anime, but they have this almost like cartoony influence to them, and I just fucking love kind of the Trigger, I guess, house style that you see in like this and in their Visions short and in their Kill la Kill and stuff like that. They have a style that just really hits for me. They're just unabashed use of color. Really tried. Like, the whole reason I fucking wanted to even watch this is because I saw Leo Photias, the main like Burnish rebellion kid. I saw his design and I was just like, yes, I need to know what that is from. And it didn't disappoint me. So I think starting with the visuals makes a lot of sense, because I think Trigger, the aesthetics are where they just almost always hit home runs.
Yeah, Matt, you've said to me before, I think, I don't know if you've changed this in the time since we last talked about it, you haven't seen Gurren Lagann all the way through?
I've seen bits and pieces of Gurren Lagann, because that was started by the person that was Gynex, and then that person went and founded Trigger, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen bits of Gurren Lagann, I just haven't seen the whole thing.
The reason why I say is because this is like Gurren Lagann.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, especially when we get to the end, I was like, oh my god, this is the exact same show. But
I'm sure
what?
it is.
It's a good ass fucking show. And so it works. It's hype. That's the thing for me. That Ian might think is like that Trigger's one of my favorite anime studios, because if Ian like mocks me or says like Alfie always goes bigger, always goes hard, always does the hypest thing, thing, I very much probably get that from these guys, because that's like their whole fucking modus operandi. Like, their whole thing is everything is just escalation. Like, every episode escalates on the last, and then bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And they apply that to this movie, where we just have this. We start off with this crazy like rescue mission, and then it goes into a crazy fight, and then that escalates into a 1v1, and then escalates, you get new power armor. This was like in the first like 10 minutes, and then you escalate, and the conflict changes until by the end you got like giant flying dragons, and then a fusion that covers the whole planet. Like, this is like every Trigger trope, and I'm all like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. Like every time they get bigger and bigger, it always goes happy for me. So that's the thing with Trigger. I always like to. I think they've got a. They are one of the animation companies that I think truly understands. There's like the ongoing thing of like, if you write a comic or something, you have no budget because you can draw anything, which isn't true. But if we go off that start, I think they're one of the companies that really does understand. Well, if you can draw anything, why don't you? Why don't you just go as big as you possibly can with these ideas and have your main characters shout out the themes of the story as giant that gives them power-ups and emotional connections resolve trauma that it means you get a better mech suit, like shit like that. I just fucking that's what anime's about, man. That's just great. That's just my crack. I love just leaning into the emotions of the story and nothing being subtext, everything just being text, megaphone yelled into your face, and if you can't handle it, that's your problem because it's going to do it as hard as it possibly can. I always have so much respect for that as a thing, so that's definitely why. If you like this, Matt, you need to go and watch all of Gurren Lagann because it's just this stretched over 25 episodes, except if it kept getting bigger.
That you cannot possibly describe something that sounds more exhausting to watch than what you have just said.
This, but for a whole show.
That's your problem, man. I'm eating the show.
Oh my god. I could just get 5 seconds where the screen isn't blaring in my eyes. That would be ideal.
Well, Ian, I know you're getting older, and it's harder for you to keep them open as you go. So the attention span can quite. Maybe just sit down and maybe watch your stories. You can. Maybe relax.
Sometimes I just need something nice and simple. I'm an old man. I don't understand your Pokemans and your Digimans.
Your Japanimation.
Yeah, your Japanimation, with your waifus and your Daku Makriyas and stuff, and your Dorio Arigatos. No, I mean, I did enjoy this. I'm putting up fronts mostly just to jab Alfie a little bit here and there because I don't know. That's just how I get my rocks off. But it's I don't know. I did legitimately enjoy it. It is probably the most anime trope thing I think I've watched in a good long while. I think the moment that just had me kind of just laughing at it more than with it, because it's not tongue-in-cheek, but it's kind of aware, and it kind of pokes fun at itself a little bit here and there. It does kind of the Marvel thing of okay, this is ridiculous, right? But also kind of cool, right, guys? Yeah, we all agree it's kind of silly. But it's also cool. But I think the thing where it was just unironically doing the anime thing and it just kind of made me go, okay, is it's after that prologue with the opening fight and all that shit, and then it's just the biggest exposition dump at the fucking pizza shop in the world.
Oh yeah. That really kind of annoyed me, because I've watched this twice now, and that my second viewing, I was just like, oh god, okay, this dialogue is the most stilted and awkward shit.
Yeah, it's just it's literally covering so much information. It kind of does the special edition Jabba the Hutt scene, if you know what I mean, where it's okay, so you already awkwardly mentioned the backstory between our main character and the governor. And now you're mentioning it again, literally the next scene. So that's kind of weird. And then they're summarizing things that, you could kind of infer from the prologue. I guess it's fine to have it spelled out a little more directly, but still, it's just this very just anime exposition dump is the only way I can think to describe it, because obviously everything has exposition, but anime seems kind of notorious for really big exposition dumps that just never seem to fit naturally. So I thought that was kind of funny, and there were moments where I was just okay, yeah, there's I guess the word for it would be indulgence, and I don't mind it necessarily. It's just like it is just very of the style, I suppose. It's just a very like this is what anime just does. And it's like the we named the thing. Now the big title comes up with an on-screen strike a pose.
That's so fucking. That's my shit, man. I love that.
I do love that. The amount of like the fucking Smash Bros. Title cards and the like literally like I think at one point the villain's just like stop naming things or something like that. It's hilarious. The fact that they name. The fact that they fucking name their robots, their fucking god-named shipping names are the names of their fucking endgame robots, and it's great. I love it. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty good. I did like that it had the balls to be gay.
It does!
That was impressive.
I got my gay anime boys, and I was gonna make us watch something with gay anime boys, and I got to, so I'm happy. They telegraph that shit too. From the moment Gallo finds them in the cave and Leo does the like little mouth to mouth on the girl, I'm just like, that's very obvious setup that's coming back, and I was so happy. Because yeah, this movie is not like Alfie's 100% on the money. Like it's not subtle at all. Like I don't think it believes in subtlety, and I think that mostly works because like the metaphor of the burnish for being like racism, like that metaphor is so on the nose, and I love that it ends with the only way to solve this systemic problem is to burn everything to the ground and start over. Like that's awesome. Like that's so cool that it went there in like a super very obvious way. I just feel like that in-your-faceness extends to the dialogue in a way that sometimes makes it feel really stilted, and that's just kind of a shonen anime thing, like Ian was saying, that I notice a lot, so I feel you.
Alright, so I do want to talk about the metaphor for it, okay? So, like, it's certainly not just this, because a lot of things do this, where they create, like, the minority as a character or a set of characters in a thing, and then play with the ideas of bigotry and racism. So there's this, Zootopia does this, X-Men does this shit all the time. Mm-hmm. It's just like a very like noticeable trope. But like this does the thing that like all three of those things do this same thing. This, I think, does it, like, objectively the hardest, which is impressive because I put Zootopia on that list. Where, like, any logical person will be like, yeah, no, the racism is 100% justified. Like, the British killed half the population of the Earth. In like the fucking prologue of the movie, the British are responsible for half the population's destruction. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of be a little racist toward those guys. I'm sorry. This is like, if you wanted to justify racism, I think that's probably the best argument you could make for it. It's funny because, like I said, Zootopia did the same thing where it's like, yeah, but like legit that the predators ate them. Like, this isn't some, like, oh, no, predators don't actually do that. No, like, in the context of that world, the predators legitimately ate the prey animals. That is a consistent thing. So the prey are kind of right to be afraid of them. Which is the thing with, like, when you're making something about bigotry, the ultimate, like, what the fuck part of bigotry is it's completely unsupported. Right? Like, there's things with, like, maybe groups of people, maybe, like, different warring clans, whatever you want to call it. There might be a reason to be... There might be, like, a fundamental reason why your culture is afraid of another culture, but bigotry based particularly on race or things of... like outside of control, gender-based bigotry, sexual orientation-based bigotry, etc., is just completely absurd. And so to do something where you're trying to do a commentary on bigotry and use kind of the language surrounding and the ideas surrounding the absurdity of bigotry, it immediately undercuts a lot of those ideas when you give like a pretty strong fucking reason to be racist towards these people. And again, like the film goes out of its way to make the burning the most like sympathetic. You know, they're so oppressed. The nation has its boot heel on their neck, kind of thing, and I get that. But like within the context of what the movie sets up, it's like, no, these people are really fucking dangerous. Like they destroyed half the population of the planet. That's not like a thing that they said, but it never actually happened. No, they're like, you see the world before and after, and that's kind of terrifying. So it's funny when shit does that to me, and it was probably the most glaring story beat that I had an issue with.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, that's fair, because see, I think that because they go out of their way to show that, like, you know, yes, that did happen, but it was not like it was done, at least from what we're presented. It's not like it was done purposefully. They did not.
No, it was.
What?
Like that's they show like the burning started like doing protests and doing deliberate attacks and trying to like kill people. Like you see in the prologue of the movie a civil war happen. It's 100% that like the attacks were being used intentionally.
Yeah, I don't
and
think
it ended up costing.
I think that's one of those things. Is they start out with, that's the point in the movie you're still supposed to believe, oh, these are the bad guys and these are the heroes we followed before. It's meant to be kind of a twist that they're not actually fully evil. With the context of the whole film, they talk about like how hard it is for the control, and in the opening, it's you see people getting stressed out or abused, and then that triggers the fire, which causes the explosion. It doesn't take much reason to be like, okay, so people were scared of these things, and then they had to fight to keep, and that's what caused the Civil War. I don't think it's they all got told to suddenly join an organization and fight. That's how the start of the movie is setting up to be. Like, that's not the case. The Civil War is most likely just because these people got judged immediately for, yes, being dangerous, because if you've got this power that you can't control and explode, that is something to worry about. But then that probably escalated to persecution and stuff. So I don't think it's meant to. No, at no point is there ever in this film where like, oh yeah, we were an evil organization that decided to attack the world. That's only in the beginning, which is trying to subvert your expectations, because again, where it starts out and you're meant to fight these three guys, introducing a very anime, like, oh, this is the big evil main boss. It's like it's meant to be a subversion of your expectation by setting you up to think these guys are just purely evil. So it's definitely not executed with any nuance or grace about like fucking racism or shit like that, because it's not a thing. But I don't think it's meant.
Again,
they actually were trying to wipe out humanity themselves.
I don't think they were trying to. I think it's just like a result of what happened. It's
Right.
like that when you set up in the context. Like, I don't think. Again, I'll reference Zootopia because that's fresh on my mind since Leo was watching it the other day. I don't think that like the context of the movie is trying to say that like predators like or intentionally and out of malice killed prey. It's, you know, that it's framed within the context of the movie that it was just natural at the time, and this movie frames it as, yeah, these people were being persecuted like right out the gate. It's just, again, like, fact of the matter, the movie states this themselves. Half the population of the Earth was killed in a civil war.
Right.
Like that's a big fucking deal. And it just
are the burning
it's
included in that? Probably.
I'd assume to a degree, sure, but to a degree, yes, of course. But again, that's the fact that half the population was killed in a civil war is like a problem with the idea of the commentary on persecution, on bigotry. And again, I don't really hold this movie itself as like, oh, this has like totally failed. It's just, that's why I mentioned it alongside other things that do the exact same shit.
Right.
It is a weird trope that people like. It's like people enjoy the narrative of the oppressor or of the oppressed class without really giving thought to the full scope of what that means. Because to be oppressed fundamentally means you lack power. And for things like this to lean into and intentionally try to give like an inner power, inner strength, I feel not necessarily misses the point, but begins to, certainly. And so this is, again, this is not like a cardinal sin that this film has done. It is just a trend in this story beat, this narrative, this plot line that always kind of crops up and makes me go, I don't think you're really properly thinking that one through. And I want to I'm going to give myself a pat on the back here, because I mentioned X-Men for doing this, but I didn't go out of my way to shit on X-Men for doing this. So I'm a good boy. Anyway, yeah, so it's just that, like, as soon as you mentioned the persecution thing, I was like, yeah, no, I mean, I kind of liked elements of that, and then I kind of was like, yeah, here we go again with this particular plot thread. So that was probably, I think for, like, a story beat-wise or anything, that's probably the element for me of this film that is the weakest.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I just really like where the metaphor ends up going with it by the end, because by the end of it, they literally burn everything to the ground. There are no more burnish anymore, and that's literally just it saying the only way you can solve these, like, systemic societal issues is you really have to fucking just tear everything down and start from scratch where everyone is viewed as equal from the get-go. And I like that. I like how literal that gets, sort of playing to Trigger's strengths. I hear what you're saying, and I do understand, like, where you're coming from. I do think the movie, I think it does a pretty solid job justifying it, though, because, I mean, obviously, the burnish on some level being responsible for half the people on the planet dying is a big deal. But given what we know about the burnish in the context of the story, I think it still works because it doesn't justify the way the government treats them and stuff like that. So I still think it overall works, but I do get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm certainly not going to come across like, yes, the evil villain of the movie was really the good guy the whole time who wanted to strap people to a machine to become his engine.
Ian's just saying he sees his ploy.
I'm just saying, like, if you fucking, if there's like, all right, here's this population of people that are responsible for wiping out half the civilization, like, yeah, maybe they shouldn't just be walking around. Like, if they're getting stressed and shit all the time, like, yeah, maybe they need to go, like, live in fucking Siberia or some shit. Because, like, that's the thing for me.
I just think we should keep them equal. You know, they're equal, but separate.
Yeah, like, they deserve like their own swimming pools and drinking fountains.
On this
like, I don't know.
Of Geeky Gentleman, Ian defends segregation.
Yeah, you know, like, I do. Again, it's that's the thing is when you try to do the metaphor of the persecuted class, but you provide, like, sympathy to the persecutor, it starts to miss the message of what is the fundamental, like, absurdity of bigotry, is kind of what I'm getting at. Is it seems to this shouldn't be a conversation I should be capable of having. I shouldn't have any level of a point here, you know, is kind of what I'm getting at. If it's truly doing the narrative of bigotry justice. But outside of that, I don't know. It's just it's a funny fucking bit just to see how hard that point is missed. It's almost like, I don't know. Is it fair to call it like a trope at this point? Because I feel like we can all name a thing that does this.
It's
like
the three that I listed.
Like doing. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I just, like, clarifying. You mean just, like, doing a racism allegory, but your stand-in for the oppressed is a group that would be legitimately a very big danger.
Yeah, you know, like, I don't know, that's just something that like, kind of stands out to me, and I always think is, like, kind of funny and weird. It's on that same level as, like, films like Avatar or Dances with Wolves, etc., aren't a problem in and of themselves, but like when you start to consider the number of them all playing on the same trope of like the white savior, it starts to be like, okay, you're kind of getting into something here. It's like there's nothing wrong with like a white guy joins the oppressed people and realizes that their culture is beautiful and decides to fight with them against his own people to preserve their culture. There's nothing like inherently wrong with that story. It's when that story becomes so prevalent and it seems to be the only way that this group is viewed through is when it starts to become an issue. And so that's kind of the thing. Is like the story of the absurdity of bigotry or a story that leans on elements of bigotry as a problem is great, but it's kind of weird when you provide legitimate justification for the bigotry within the confines of your story.
For my thing on it, of the white savior example you've thrown out, Ian, is that's just inherently just no. In terms of the other trope we're talking about, which is with this film, is I do think it's one of those writing problems you kind of run into where you want to fulfill two cores with it. You want to show and oppress the body of people and the propaganda, as they always do, of the oppressors and what they are using to justify their thing. There are always, quote unquote, reasons behind any form of bigotry that people say. They're not the actual reasons, because there are no reasons for bigotry. There is no ever an actual reason. It's not a decision people consciously make to be racist one day. It's not as simple as that. So that inherently is, you want to be able to portray that in your fiction to have truth behind it. You don't just want to say that the people who are in charge of these things are just doing it for the sake of it. You need to make your world feel lived in. The other side of that coin that you come with the powers, something like X-Men or how it is with the Burning, is you want to show the inherent specialness and value and strength of the oppressed people for what they are, not for what they aren't. You don't want to do a story about, this black person doesn't deserve to be racist because they're not like other black people, they're just like the white person or something like this. Like, no, that's you want to show the inherent specialness of their value is inherent for who they are and what they are and that aspect. So giving a specific power to that race becomes like a symbol of that unity, of that bond, of we have the tools to fight back. We are not lesser. We can be more. We can be special. We have value in our own right. And for a lot of persecuted kids or kids who have problems with that or don't understand their identity, because given how this film ends, you can also look at it outside of race in terms of like a sexuality metaphor or something like that. I think the race is the more direct thing it's drawing on, but that's definitely still there. I think it is part of the wish fulfillment narrative to, like, you may feel that you're getting mistreated or something, but the story is telling you that you are special, that the people who are doing this are wrong and you have a power inside of you. And I think that as a writer is a very hard... They're two very hard things to mix and avoid the problem you're saying, Ian. I don't think this film is a testament to being able to walk that tightrope well. It could definitely be cleaned up, but I do kind of disagree with inherently with the anytime there's a logical reason for persecution, because that gets into a lot of the language that is used by bigotry. Mm-hmm. So I don't know about what you're saying.
You're right. It's a really tough line to walk, but it's just when you start to create, like, when you start to have the ability to look in and see any level of, well, no, this is actually somewhat reasonable, is when I think you start to falter. And the more reasonable you make it, the more shaky the ground is to me. So it's just one of those things. And I didn't mean to spend this much time on it.
It's
so
interesting.
If you guys want to,
it's
we can move on.
To talk about with the film. It's fine.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the thing for me that stood out the most about it, and the thing that kind of kept me the furthest away. Particularly, like, I guess the last thing I want to talk about in regards to this, particularly like the fact that the last fight before the team up is kind of the most, like, the "you gotta be a good one" kind of vibe to me. Where it's like, you know, I saw what happened to you and it was awful, but I can't let you kill innocent people. And like, 100%, he is completely right in that one. But it's still just like a weird place when you start to consider the wider metaphor. It's very much the like, Malcolm X is wrong actually kind of vibe, and it's like if you just frame it like with those kind of words, you suddenly start to see what makes it weird. It's the, and again, if we want to take this out further from real life and just talk about it like within the context of fiction, Charles Xavier is a little bit fucking crazy that he keeps trusting the people that build the genocide robots. Magneto's got a really strong fucking argument for, no, we can't trust the people. We keep like, all right, so we can't live amongst them. We'll just go create our own island. And they keep sending genocide robots to my island, Charles. The fuck am I supposed to do with that? It starts to get like a little, it's just a little weird. So it's one of those things where the like, oh, you can't do this. I'm like, I mean, yeah, I don't ever think nearly killing an entire city worth of people is the right move, but at the same time, if your entire population is literally being kept in chains to be tortured and murdered within the next few minutes, I can see how you got there. It's like, yeah, maybe I should fucking just burn down this whole fucking city, like it's one of those things. It's a little, you gotta be a good one. You've gotta be better than them. I'm like, do I really have to?
Well, I think it goes to Matt's kind of thing about how they kind of save it is definitely how they choose to end it, and how they choose to, the big final power-up is implicitly the combination of them. It is implicitly the Golo, is it the main character of this?
Yeah, you got Gallo and Leo.
Okay, yeah. So they implicitly are on their own, unable to solve the conflict. You have the revolutionary with the burning fire, and then you have the member of the society who is burning to protect said society and their conflict, versus someone who is entirely out for their own gains and using it for just self-preservation. Like, how can they overcome this? The revolutionary fights on his own and he can't do it. And then the member within the society fights on his own and he gets his ass kicked even harder and worse. And only by combining themselves do they burn the society from start and then make a fresh new way. I think it definitely isn't the most layered or nuanced or realistic portrayal of that thing, but in terms of where these things go, yeah, that's a pretty good that's better in terms of execution than, say, the Magneto Professor X thing, where if they stuck with Leo is just a villain and he's lost his way. It's like, no, they team up and become a good guy and kind of thing, and he's always been a good guy. He's betrayed on that side of thing, and then the whole film we're talking about how much Golo is an idiot and had blind faith in the system and completely had the wrong idea. Only when those are shattered is he fully able to kind of merge with them and stuff. Again, it's very anime, it's very loud in its themes and barraging at them. But I do think the message with that is something that is on the right lines than it is in the wrong lines, especially when we get to that climax and how we choose to resolve. I agree with Matt on that.
Especially because Gallo kind of functions as a stand-in for that very like baseline understanding of racism and prejudice. Because you've got the whole scene at the pizza shop where they're all just like, oh, I mean, the Burnish they're just people like anyone else, and you have to choose to be a good one, and you can't use your powers for bad. But it's understandable that some of them. And then it's about that like bubble popping and realizing that this is actually much more systemic and this is bigger than that. So I think that idea is tackled. I think we're all in agreement that it's not tackled with the most nuance, but then again, I was not expecting it to be. So I think it does what it's trying to do well enough.
I mean, yeah, the film, I think, pretty firmly gives you its stance when it is making the persecuted population literally be on fire and used to fuel a society.
I love that. Like
that is the most on the fucking nose.
Yeah.
Like, this is what this system is doing to people, and the planet is literally eating itself as like it's the strength of Trigger for me, is that they make the concept as literal as fucking possible.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's good we spent some time on that, because I feel like that's the main kind of thrust of what the story is trying to say. So
Speaking of like thrusts and stuff, then what do we have any character thoughts or characters that stood out in this, or the dynamics between them that we want to talk about?
Leo's my boy, and the fact that the closer he gets to Gallo, the more shirtless he becomes, warms my heart, and I love them, and goddamn, love them so much. Because Leo, like,
the fucking firefighter coming to the like first mission like half naked is absolutely incredible. I cannot deny that. That is the dumbass energy he embodies throughout the rest of the film, and I respect him.
Yeah, Gallo's great. He's like ultimate fucking well-meaning himbo boy who, as soon as he finds out that like the system that he put his faith in may not be what he thought it is, he's immediately just like, I can't, you know. He goes to turn in his metal. Like he's operating on such a very simple, like, I don't want to insult the guy, but he's operating on such a fucking stupid level, and I can't help but appreciate it. I mean,
no, I mean, I love that the film just like objectively says this guy is a fucking dumbass, but he's a dumbass with a heart of gold, right?
big fan.
And I think that's
the
great.
fact that he's falling asleep during the goddamn exposition dump at the end of the movie that feels obligatory, that no one cares about. They're just like, yeah, okay, here's the obligatory exposition dump that we need to just sort of explain what is happening, but, you know, you're really not here for this. You're here for this. And, like, the fact that Gallo...
I mean, they fucking named the robot the Deus Ex Machina, you know? Like, that's
so good.
They're just like,
good.
this is here because it narratively has to be here.
What's the best shit? Again, this is just Ian. I'm surprised. You should have been thinking of me the entire time of this fucking film, because not
Oh
only
no, I was like, Alfie's gonna fucking love
the
this.
Deus Ex Machina isn't enough. They need to give it more form. Like, that's so fucking good. Like, God's machine. It's too weak. We need to power it up even, and it gets fucking black, and then it gets just pure energy and bigger than the planet. Like, oh my god, that's exactly my shit.
It's so good.
It's just this never-ending escalation of hype with it, and again, that's to the main character thing. I think he's one of those tropes with anime main characters and stuff that I always just go for so fucking hard. Like, it's the Naruto, it's the Luffy. He's not quite as dumb as Goku, and he's not necessarily interested. So he's not quite the Goku mold, but he's the I'm here. I don't understand the problems of this society. I don't particularly. What I do understand is I'm here to help people, and however I can do to help people is what I'm going to do. And like, he does it to such a ridiculous extent where you get that. Probably my favorite scene in the movie where he fucking smacks down the main villain, and he's like, I'm here to save them, I'm gonna save him, and I'm even gonna save you. He's like, save me. It punches him the fuck out. He's like, just sit down there and watch. I'm just like, I love when heroes do that shit. It's such a flex. It's my crack. It's that idea of, you have just a character that is, again, he's not without his development or growth, he's not without his faults or anything. They do a good job of giving him his idea of an idealized hero that wasn't at all what it was. I like how relentless they go with just how much of a bastard is fucking Menno. I put you on the missions with the highest mortality rate because I wanted you to fucking die, but you kept coming back. That's such a great twist. Like, that's such a great dynamic on that, like, relation, because normally you'd have him be like, it's too late for me, but like, it's like, no, he's like, I hate you and you just keep coming back, and even at the end, even after all it's revealed, he's still like, I'm still gonna save you. Like, that just hits for me. That really is just that pure. Trigger does it really well with its heroes. Like, Ryuko's like that a lot, Kamin is like that a lot, Simon's like that a lot. They're very good at giving you those completely unflinching in their principles heroes, and that is really, really nice to see, in addition to having characters like you said, like Leo, who are they're dealing with darker subject matter, but they're portrayed as completely heroic as well, and fighting for a greater cause and respected by their people and stuff like that. It's nice to have that balance between them, and to not just. It would have been a weaker film if it had just been, the one character saves the whole film. It's nice that it ends in a very duality way, because you do, by the time you get to the halfway point in this, you are kind of swapping before both their perspectives on the events. And I think that's a cool way to do twin protagonists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that whole bit where he punches him is one of those things where I'm just like, it's kind of Trigger at their best, because how did he survive that? How does he suddenly have this little spark of fire protection? I don't know. It's kind of vaguely explained, but who cares? This is awesome. And it just hits. It just hits on that emotional level. So yeah, I love Gallo. He's a lot of fun, and I like Leo a lot. I think a lot of the side characters are fun. We just don't, we don't get a lot with them, but they're all fun. I don't.
Yeah.
What you got, Ian?
I mean, it's, again, very tropey to me, and nothing wrong with it. It's just it is tropey. Like the fucking tech girl with the little cute animal assistant, and she's like super tiny compared to everyone else on the team, and she's just like kind of manic and pressing buttons. It's the trope. It's fine. Didn't really bother me. It's just like, yeah, okay. The rest of the team, I think, would have been more fun to focus on a little bit, as well as the characters that Leo's with in the beginning. I thought those two, if nothing else, had really fucking cool designs in the armor and shit. Whole fucking movie, I was sitting there trying to wrap my head. I'm like, okay, so they make fire, but also
yeah, I
other stuff.
I'm very confused as to what their powers can actually do, because they're like,
whatever the fuck they want, it's cool.
Yeah, they're like constructs almost, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I mean, I'm the Green Lantern guy, so it worked for me. It's just, I don't know, I knew Alfie was gonna just unabashedly love everything about the movie and say it was like his new Bible, and I was gonna be like, it was pretty cool. It was alright.
It's
I
not.
liked it.
It's by no means. I still prefer the other Trigger work to this, because I think this has all the. This was a nice I think if this was an anime, it would have been a bit. You'd have to add a lot more to it to sustain the. I think making this a movie was a better choice, because it's a very one and done story, one and done world. Something like Kill la Kill, I think, has like much stronger writing across the board, and stronger character dynamics with a little bit more meat to them. But this isn't trying to necessarily beat it. It's mostly just Trigger flexing its animation deck and doing like, again, it's tropey to the extreme. And I think the thing about Trigger that's great is they understand that, and so they just go fucking hard with it. Like rather than shying away from it, or just being like, oh yeah, well, this is the M character, we're going to subvert it by doing this or this. It's like, no, it's just what he is, and he's going to do it really big and the biggest scale possible. This is just what his crew is, and they're all going to do it really coolly and just know their roles. As you've seen this story before, you'll see it again. This is just a time to have fun with it and see this new visual take on it and stuff. And that's something Trigger does a lot with its stuff. And I think the fact that they take so long to put these projects out keeps it from getting like stale or old, because if you just had this back to back, then yeah, it would be tiring. You would want something more. But it is like in the wake of other anime and stuff, it's like getting a really cool ice cream, like with lots of sprit, like yes, you have all your favorite flavors put on it, all your favorite.
It's like when you get like really hyped about like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the store, I'm gonna get an ice cream, get like the gummy bears and the sprinkles and the chocolate
exactly.
chips, and then
and you know it's not good
you get
for
all
you.
that on it. It's like, oh man, not even that it's not good for you. It's like you get through it, like at first it's really tasty, but then like halfway through you're like, man, the ice cream's making the gummy bears like super cold and frozen and not pleasant to eat anymore. But I don't want to admit this is starting to get bad.
I'm going to disagree with you strongly on that. I love the cold gummy bears in the ice cream.
I agree with Matt. They hit different.
This do.
Is why we like this film, and Ian does.
It's like, okay, let me ask you this. I'm sure both of you had this experience as a child where like you went to the soda dispenser and like the fast food joint, and you put like all the sodas in one cup.
Yeah.
and then you pretended that tasted really good, even though it tasted like shit.
Tastes good. I still do that.
You're a literal child. You are literally 3 years old.
I never
and
have I ever
you should feel bad
have I
about it.
ever tested otherwise.
That's literally Carly will make fun of me if we go to like get frozen yogurt. She'll be like, "Okay, I'm gonna get some frozen yogurt. I'm gonna get some strawberries in there, maybe a couple fruit." And I'm over here and I'm just like sprinkles, chocolate,
Yeah,
Oreo pieces. I don't give a fuck.
My man, let's go.
So I get made fun of for this exact thing.
That's what I watched the Batman with when I went with my mum. I just went to the fucking soda dispenser and just fucking did every single fucking flavor like always. It's great. It's my favorite thing to do when I get like they just give me a cup and I can do the forbidden dance of Coke and Pepsi together in one. The Romeo and Juliet of sodas. It's great.
Someone needs to stop him. He's gotten too powerful. Oh, it's so funny. It's like, it's one of those things. It's just, it can be fun for a minute, and then you like think about it. It's like, oh god, I'm never doing that again. And that's kind of what this was. It's like, you know, this is fun. This had moments that were like really fucking cool and shit. But then there were other times I'm like, okay, yeah, that was enough. I don't think this needed to be almost 2 hours.
You know, it's funny.
It wore thin for me after a while, certainly.
Yeah, it's funny because like I don't know. There are things that,
which is funny because I actually broke it up.
Yeah.
But still.
there are things that hit me harder on my first viewing, like when Leo gets betrayed and then gets like shot into the heart of a volcano, and then he's able to fucking Super Saiyan his way out of it. Like that whole sequence.
Such a good moment.
It's such a good moment. It hit me so hard on first watch. And it still hit pretty good on second watch, but on second watch, I found myself just going like, God, this movie moves so fast. Like, it does not feel its length to me at all, because the pacing is just like, go, 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 go. But, yeah, I mean...
think I'm somewhere in the middle between you two on that. I kind of agree with you in that I think you could have chopped off chunk of this, maybe like 10, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes even. That might be a bit too harsh, but I think it could still be done. I think you can make this a tighter watch for sure. I do think there are parts in this where it's just we are having to meet a runtime sometimes. But I can also agree with Matt. It's like it's not like stuff doesn't happen in this. There is there are a lot of things going. There's a lot of things, and it never stops looking. There's no like dips in quality or anything with the animation, so I think I definitely feel in the middle between. I don't think it was particularly impressively paced, but I don't think it was necessarily badly placed either. It's like I'm in the middle definitely.
Fair.
I think for me, like, I think my favorite thing about this movie was definitely the main character's like attitude. See, he was the one like I was like, oh no, I just love the hype. I'm like, yeah, the hype's pretty good. I like that he's just like he had such a sense of like fucking style. Like they get there and the robot, he's like, it's just kind of lame, you know? It's just I don't like it. And then they get their ass kicked by the bigger robot. He's like, yeah, it's just I don't have my gear, you know? Like, that was the thing.
Yeah, I love that too.
That's
That's part of the hype for me. I love it when characters have, he's like, he keeps saying his fucking name in the third person. It's like, it's from a great Eastern civilization. This is my thing.
The fucking line that comes back, the firefighting history of a great island. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's so good.
I love that shit too. And no, the style of it is one to one with the hype for me. I love that the MC in this is just so fucking intent on flexing that he's getting hit while he's posing and complaining. I'm like, I love shit like that.
It's great because it's such a good contrast. Because like, you got like Leo and his goons who like they immediately like suit up in their big like motorcycles, and Leo he's like summoning a big construct, and you're like, oh shit, what's it? And it's just a chair, and he just like sits down, and he like the two of them are such a great like contrast when they first meet. Of course, then Leo whips out his fucking sick ass motorcycle and looks amazing. So, yeah, I like both characters have a style all their own that I adore equally for different reasons.
It's good stuff. It legit is. I don't know. I found it amusing, the character dynamic in that way. I liked that quite a bit. That was probably one of my favorite things about it.
If you're not
Just characters with like a sense of flair.
if you're not having your characters name their attacks, you're writing wrong.
Says the guy who wouldn't let me have characters name the attacks. You're a
What?
fucking parody of yourself, Alfie.
When was this?
I wanted to have. There were several points in DVD suit. I'm like, can you fucking name drop it? And you're like, nah. It does. Not every attack needs a name dropping. And I'm like, you're a fucking coward. You're a fucking coward and a
You
charlatan.
must have just went up with some pretty shitty names then, it sounds like, yeah.
No, it wasn't even a shitty name. It was your fucking name. I just wanted him to drop the name. Fucking trash.
Anyway. Sounds like a you problem.
Uh-huh. Everything's a me problem whenever I'm dealing with your ass. Oh.
Trying to think of where else to go.
Home.
I'm already home. I can smell Carly baking banana bread downstairs, and I'm very excited by it.
You should go get some fucking banana bread and then drive 2.5 hours to give me the entire piece of banana
Okay,
bread.
I will do that.
I'm gonna hold you to it. Alfie, we've got it on recording. You're my lawyer.
I will drive the 4 hours, 5 hours. I don't know,
It shouldn't be 5 hours. How long did you drive to get to the movie?
like 2 hours or so, I think.
Oh wow, so it might actually be 4 hours. I thought it was like an hour and a half.
I
at
could be
most.
wrong. I don't know. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, the minute you see the fucking the guy with the pointy teeth who turns out to be like one of the big bad guys, you immediately know that obviously the Burnish are not going to end up being the bad guy, and that's before you even meet the Burnish who have been all oppressed and stuff. So it definitely doesn't.
See, I just wanted the movie to have two different sets of bad guys. I wanted the only good guy to be the firefighter.
Oh, so okay, I don't know if this is anywhere to go. The reveal that the villain Cray is himself a Burnish was pretty neato. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where I think that's less so going with the metaphor and more so just going with the...
We gotta escalate.
Yeah, it's the anime, power reveal of the villain you think is beaten, actually he's just now stronger than ever before. And it works really well for that, but I think that is one of those things where if you were sticking solely to the metaphor, you probably would have gone better off if he was just a complete, just out of that world oppressor kind of thing. But then again, it's having someone who's just complete self-hatred and using that thing and then still being saved at the end. It doesn't directly contradict, so you could make an argument for it.
I feel like if you had made the pointy teeth dude who was the leader of the hit squad, if someone like him, a second in command, had been a Burnish, I feel like it maybe would have helped.
Yeah, that
made
might
the
have hit
metaphor
more.
work
Because
better.
then you could have gone with the idea of just, again, very much the sense of when these things happen, you'll have people betray them to save themselves, which is very much... They get into that with the old old man.
Yeah, I was gonna say they did that plot point.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying you can
can
repeat that.
They waste no time on that too. He betrays them, and then within 2 minutes, he's now been frozen and stuff like that.
I know,
they
it's
waste
pretty
no
funny.
they waste no
And
time.
he's the first one that they turn the engine on
Yeah.
with and shit. It's fucked
Yeah.
up.
Um.
I mean, certainly fuck that old man, but it was pretty fucked up.
What do you guys think? Did you watch this in the dub or the sub?
Oh, I watched.
I just watched.
Yeah, I watched it in dubs because I'm a filthy casual who usually
What do you
watches
guys think of
dubs.
the dub then? Because I watched the dub as well.
I think it's good. I think anime dubs have come a long way. And I say that as someone who almost exclusively watches dubs because I'm lazy. But I think the dub work is pretty good. I like all the voice work. One of my favorite things about anime dubs in general is the amount of voice actor just passing around and sharing that happens in projects. Because one of the chicks Ina, who's like the kind of main chick on Gallo's team. She's voiced by Makoto from Persona 5, who also has a weird, strained relationship with her sister. So I just found that very amusing.
One
but I
that
thought it
I
was good.
fucking, the one that I fucking love is obviously you've got Steve Blum in there and such, and you've got my boy Yuri Luerfall in there as well. The one that really stuck out to me is like probably one of my favorite VAs ever is fucking Crispin Freeman, the goat himself, as the fucking main villain Cray. He goes so hard with it. I love it when because he normally plays like very reserved, quiet characters. He's like the typical Itachi go-to voice. But when he just gets to fucking scream his head off and just be a bastard, he's really, really good at it. Like when he's like, "You were a cancer!" Like, I love that shit. He's so good at it. So I'm Crispin Freeman. Fucking, he was the star of the show for me. I love that man. I'm so glad he got to do like just a dedicated villain turn role, because he's also great at like when you hear Crispin Freeman as like the heroic kind of like almost, he's even got the draw like the classic Superman eyes where it's kind of squinting and stuff. Like you're just, oh, Crispin Freeman, he must be a good guy because he's Winston from Overwatch. He's nice. But then he fucking turns so hard, and I'm just like, that was a very pleasant surprise to have him in the voice cast in such a prominent evil role, because he doesn't normally get to. He does like antagonists, like anti-heroes, but he never normally gets to go full villain, and I think that's fun.
Actually, one of the reasons I was like, "Hey Carly, do you want to watch this movie with me?" And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, Johnny Youngbosh is one of the main characters, and she's like, sold.
Yeah, we love Bradley.
Kind of Johnny Youngbosh. I think Crispin Freeman. He's Electro in Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think the voice cast is good. Ian, what do you think?
I don't know. That like nothing really stood out to me. I'm sorry. I was fairly dispassionate on most of the voice acting side of things. It was serviceable, I guess. Fuck was the. Ignore everything I just said. What was his name? The chief, the fire chief guy.
Oh, that's Ignis. That's Steve Blum.
Yeah.
He's my favorate.
Love Steve Blum.
He's great.
He's just so fucking dispassionate. It's like, we're in an investigate. We're on a rescue right now, so we have jurisdiction. It's like the fucking by the book, and using that to his advantage was pretty good.
Everyone just wants to work for the Toonami guy. His voice just hits different. It just fits. Like, yeah, I want to work for that guy.
But yeah, I'd be curious. Like, maybe if I watch it again, I'll watch it subbed. I tend to watch things and occasionally do other stuff while it's playing, and that's just harder to do with subs because I'm a filthy casual. So, but I thought
it's fine.
Yeah, I thought the dub was good.
Subs are overrated.
I thought the score was good. I thought all that was good. Sound design was good. All that good stuff. Nothing really jumped out at me, but I thought all of that was really good. Actually, yeah, the main theme jumped out at me a little bit. I thought that was pretty good, and a lot of the music is pretty good.
I want to go back and like listen to on YouTube some of the soundtrack on its own, just because I think it's the same composer as Kill the Kill, because I recognized a lot of the style of the theme and stuff. I'm not 100% sure on that, but if it is, it's definitely in the same vein. I definitely like that style of music. I think it kicks ass. So I'm gonna try and listen to some songs on their own later on, because I think it's cool. I definitely did like the soundtrack.
So cool.
And in terms of just looking at the visuals again, I really love how the backgrounds are done in this. How it's so simplified, but just very bold and bright colors. It's just chef's kiss. I love it.
Yeah. I remember the first time I was watching this movie, like as I'm watching it, I'm just like, man, Trigger was sitting there and they figured out this really cool flame effect and then built a story around it. Because I swear to God, they do so many cool things with like the burnish fire, and like, yeah, it does just straight up make constructs. And I'm just like, yeah, they came up with a really cool aesthetic, and then fucking I obviously I don't know if this is their process, but it feels like they came up with a really cool aesthetic and then fucking came up with a story around it, and it just works. The burnish powers are, I guess, poorly defined, but in a way that lets them be super cool and do cool stuff.
I mean, I don't need like the fucking textbook of this is what a burnish can do and this is what they can't, because if they did that, what I know would happen is basically what happens in the movie anyway, which is the super special Jesus, Fire Jesus guy would be able to do the thing that like no burnish ever could have done, which, I mean, it happens. Like, Fire Jesus can get out of the frozen handcuffs, and Fire Jesus can survive the absolute zero bullet and yada yada. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with just he's just really good at being Fire Jesus.
Yeah. I can't stress enough how much I love Fire Jesus's design. Like, everything about Leo Fotia is just like,
No, use only his proper title.
Fire
please.
Jesus. Everything.
Fire Jesus.
Everything about Fire.
Have you let Fire Jesus into your heart? Yeah.
Everything.
Have you made out with Fire Jesus yet? He died and came back to life as well. He truly is Fire
He
Jesus.
did. He
Have
does.
you heard of our Lord and Savior, Fire Jesus?
I would love to make out with Fire Jesus, but I can't because he is spoken for, which I guess is...
Yeah, Fire Jesus is taken by a firefighter with a burning passion.
Oh, I love it. I guess that's
so
maybe
high.
something. Like, from what I understand, most of the people working on this movie were just like, oh yeah, no, this is a love story. Like, I mean, when they explode in blue fire to, like, burn the world down, it explodes in a heart. Like... It's not even subtle.
They gay.
They gay.
I think those two are gay.
They're adorable gay anime boys, and yet, like, it's still not a romantic, explicitly romantic kiss, like in the context of the literal event.
If you were to make one of those characters female, it would be 100% seen as romantic.
Right. I'm not saying
Like, this is one of those
I'm not
things-
saying that wasn't their intention, because it totally was. I just think that, like, I just wonder if there was some level of, like, wanting to keep it ambiguous enough that you could deny it. Like, I don't know, because it could...
Yeah, I know, like, Japan's got more problems with, like, ingrained bigotry with, like, LGBT and also different races and stuff, too. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, they did that as a safety net kind of thing, like an out, in that, like, kind of classic Hollywood style where you have to be subtle with it. But at the same time, like, if anyone were to try to argue that no, they're not gay, they're just kissing like bros, you know, to save his life, it's like I would 100% laugh you out of the theater.
Like, we'll probably talk about this more when I make us watch greatest anime of all time, Yuri on Ice. But, like, that's one of those examples where it goes out of its way to be as gay as possible without actually, you know, it's not, no one ever says. So, like, it's just something that, like, I find fascinating, but also irritates me. It irritates me less than this, because it's not really the focal point exactly. It irritates me more in something on Yuri on Ice, because it is the focal point, but whatever.
Again, a lot of the times, I am more forgiving to that kind of thing because I am not part of that community, but I also, like, know the restrictions
for sure.
that creatives are put under, both, like, through studio pressure and through just, like, the fact that you don't want to, like, there's a temptation to want to explore non-traditional story elements with your characters, but then there's, like, this daunting notion that if you make it too explicit, it's the only thing anyone's going to talk about.
Yeah.
And that is fundamentally annoying. Like, the fact that it shows that there's still a long way to go with true acceptance of these things, because I'm never going to get, like, okay, I'm never gonna not be tired of hearing, oh, you know, why does everything have to be gay characters? And I'm like, well, if you truly didn't care if they were gay or not, then you wouldn't even notice that it's like everything's got gay characters. Like, if you're as cool with it as you pretend to be, you wouldn't make such a big deal out of the fact that, like, you notice so many more gay characters and things nowadays. or black characters or whatever, or women or whatever starring in the things, if you're as okay with it as you pretend to be. But again, it's all just excuses for bigotry, and I'm just sick of
Oh, for
people.
sure.
Go watch Dragon Ball DC Bombshells because the gays.
I just felt like we would be doing a disservice if we didn't at least talk about it a little bit, because the I don't want to say subtext while talking about the film Promare, because I feel like that is not warranted, but the overtones of gay are very much there between Gallo and Leo, in a way that I think a lot of people will probably respond to pretty well, especially if you're like me and you love your anime gay boys, and you've slowly become into shipping trash over the last 5 years of your life. This movie is it gives you that too, so that's nice, and I thought we would at least mention it.
It's so funny that anytime we start to talk about shipping, how quiet Alfie gets. It's absolutely hilarious.
I'm waiting to speak. You guys are talking about fun.
Oh, I'm sorry,
The thing was-
Alfie. Talk about it.
The thing I was going to talk about is I'm very glad that Trigger has now done a trilogy of a couple gets naked and saves humanity at the end. because like first they did a straight couple, and then Kill la Kill did a gay couple with two lesbians, and now they've done a male gay couple. So now we just need to go through a non-binary couple. Okay, they need to hit everyone needs to have a Trigger anime they can watch that represents them. They get naked and save humanity. I feel like that's important for us as a species.
That's one thing I've really enjoyed about Trigger's work, is that, like, okay, so I really like the anime Soul Eater. I think Soul Eater's really good. But, like, the first 2 episodes of Soul Eater have so much, like, pandery fan service humor that I just can't stand it. Like, same thing with, like, the sexy jutsu in Naruto. Like, it just kind of annoys me. And then after the first couple episodes, that's it. We don't really do it much. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Why was it in the first 2 episodes then? Because it's kind of annoying. Trigger doesn't really do that. Like, there is fan service in this. Like, there's plenty of, like, ass shots of Aina, but there's also, like,
when he fucking gets into the plane with
Yeah.
her, it's just like straddling.
there are some ass shots, but the way Trigger does it, it feels more equal.
They're tasteful ass shots, is all I'm trying to
They're
say.
tasteful.
They totally like enhance the story.
What
guys.
I think this nails for me is what I've always wanted out of my fiction, which is, if you're gonna objectify people, at least be equal opportunity in your objectification and give me sexy boys too. And this gives me that in spades, so I can't get mad at it. This is great. This does that for me, where it's just like, okay, yeah, Aina has some gratuitous ass shots. The main villain has a big titty assistant. That's fine, because I get to see Gallo and Leo being, like, gay as shit and getting naked. So, great. Cool.
What I think is interesting about Trigger's art style as well, specifically with that, is they go for such a simplistic... They don't go for very highlights. They go very minimal line work. They go very just forms and shapes. To where, say, to bring up something like you said with like Naruto, where like Naruto does like the sexy jutsu, it's like the animation budget just increased to show every fucking blush on the breasts or the highlight or something like they go very, and you can tell when an anime scene is trying to make something look sexy for the audience, like for the young boys and stuff is trying to appeal to there. They play the music or whatever. I think Trigger's got a very interesting way about that they kind of learn from Kill la Kill, because if you watch Gurren Lagann, they go more to that old anime style of making sure that the boobs are like very, very like shiny and more highly rendered than the rest of the body. The jiggle physics are everywhere. Like, they want to draw attention to the eye to that. Whereas in Kill la Kill, that is a show where literally every single character in that is naked at some point. Like, the entire population of humanity is naked by the end of that show. And yet, it never feels exploitative because it's drawn in such a simple and matter-of-fact way where, yes, you're getting, like, ass shots and stuff, but it's getting from males and girls and all of us. And the point of the show and that is about nudity and expression of self and stuff like that. So I feel like after they cut their teeth on that, kind of kept that as the approach to everything. So even when they are doing like more fan servicey shots, it doesn't feel as out of place or distracting or kind of eye rolly as other anime styles of doing it, because it's not specifically trying to draw attention to it in the same way, I guess I should say. Like, again, there's not a noticeable style change whenever they're trying to show that or anything, which I think is, if you're going to do it, I think that's a more natural approach. It doesn't break your fiction as much.
It just feels like it's an over-the-top world, and there are sexy people who live here, and it's a good time. It doesn't feel like being 100% honest, the chick from Gurren Lagann is the reason I have not gone back and watched it, because I every time I look it up, I'm just like, this looks like it's just going to annoy me. So
that is a very prominent thing, and that's totally fair.
Whereas a lot of Trigger's other work just doesn't do that, and I really appreciate that about it. And this is this and Kill la Kill are like my favorite examples of that. So,
dope.
Yeah, I love their art style, man. Their art style is so good.
It's so good. It's fantastic.
I don't know
if the
lack of like super detailed line work is what lets Kill la Kill's animation move the way, or not Kill, but just Trigger's animation in general feel like it moves the way it does, because I love it.
It definitely helps. Again, it's one of those things of animation. If you have simplistic designs that the artist can draw much easier and break down into simple shapes and stuff without needing to render every fucking backpack or piece of armor on their chest and every detail and line. If you can just break down the character into its essential shapes, it frees so much to movement, to squash and stretch, to being able to have them do these crazy panning one-take shots, to go all across the camera and have them from many different angles, because now the character art, I think the opposite of Studio Trigger, you would get something like I think I'm losing myself because I'm forgetting their name, but JoJo's animation studio, which is the opposite of that, where it's all about highly detailed character art but not a lot of movement. Trigger's like the complete opposite spectrum of that to an nth degree, and I don't think one's inherently better than the other, but for sure, if you want movement in your anime, it's always going to be better to go for more simplified designs and designs that are looser and bouncier, and the animators can kind of go wild with. As, again, a best example of that shift is...
Or just do it in CGI, then you can have a really cool fucking highly detailed...
No, because then it just looks like shit, so you want it to look good. You don't want it to look like shitty, and so, you know...
Yeah, that's why you do CGI,
no,
so it
again...
doesn't look like shit, and you just hand it off to fucking shitty animation studios that are overworked and just produce absolute fucking crap.
Berserk, the CGI animation on the screen. Thank you, Paulie. Anyway, Ian's just been
yeah, put Frieza vs Goku on the screen. Thank you, Paulie. I appreciate you.
Again, it's one of those things where it just makes it so much easier to do and still look good, unlike, you know, just selling your soul to do 3D animation badly.
Yeah, just fucking, how dare we like advance art forms. We should really just like stay in the past. Why don't you fucking like go back in time and just fucking cave paint permanently? Like, really, that was the height of art when you think about it.
You know what? It probably will have more expression than a fucking Pixar film.
That is just objectively untrue, and it's really funny that you're like sticking on that, but okay.
I thought Luca was really pretty. There we go.
Good for you, Matt.
He used to be... I mean, I am definitely someone who just aesthetically, I would probably 9 times out of 10 choose 2D animation over CG. But, like, I don't know. Earwig and the Witch looked good. Luca looked good. So I can't complain.
Yeah, it can look good. Ian's just a fucking... he brings it to me, so I have to go as hard back.
But yeah, I think Trigger, I don't know if it's their use of color or how cartoony they tend to be, but they have a talent for making really distinct character designs without getting like bogged down in details. Like even Leo like he's got a lot of detail in his costume because he's got like a lot of buckles and things like that. But the thing that sticks out the most about him is just like kind of his silhouette and his poofy hair. So it's just really cool.
Yeah, he definitely won the fucking Who's the Pro tag game.
He's so extra, and I love that for him. Ugh. Whereas Gallows over here, like, I've got pants. I got big poofy, like, fireman pants. It's great. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say. I'm glad everyone liked it, because it's fun. And it's good.
Yeah. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. Sometimes in spite of itself, but you know, it was a good time overall. Do we want to go ahead and go on to ratings then?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will go first. I'll give this film 3.5 out of 5 firefighting robots.
Fair enough. I will give it 4.5 out of 5. Leon de Gallows. Or Gallo de Leons. I don't care. Either robot. Both robots are cool.
For me, I thought this was really, really strong. I love the animation. It's always good to be able to watch a new Trigger thing, and I thought the characters and everything entertaining, and it had its own kind of charm and energy to it. So I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5. Armor taking inspiration from a noble island country.
I love that, like, he seems to be just, from what I can tell, culturally appropriating them, because I don't think he ever mentions that they're like, he's descended from those people. I think he just really admires them. It's really funny, which like totally fits the character, so it's great. Alright, so I think it's my turn for a discussion topic. And I feel like we've probably talked about this in some way, shape, or form about 1 billion times, but it's come up like 3-4 times for me. Alfie's been there for all of them, so it's just going to be, Alfie, repeat your points, because now I have fully considered them and have a counter-argument for every single one. And a contingency plan, because I Batmaned this shit, the level I've thought about it lately. So let's talk about the nature of franchise writing, and what makes for good writing in a franchise, what makes for bad writing in a franchise, stuff like that. Because that has been on my head a lot lately.
I'm gonna make this about Star Wars so fast. It's gonna make your fucking head spin.
I'm gonna make this about Doctor Who so fast.
Good.
I'm gonna argue with Ian probably.
That's okay. Steve and I will be in our own corner bitching about the current state of Star Wars television,
I don't know,
and you guys can argue. You guys can argue
Steve
about
might
that.
have to double team Ian with me. He might have to get Ian from the front while I take him from the back.
Oh, don't promise me a good time. Yeah, I don't know. Something have been on my mind lately, and so I'm just gonna sit here and put Alfie. I'm gonna box Alfie like a fish, to borrow a term from the youths nowadays.
You know, be careful what you box, because you got a great white on your hands here, baby.
Well, you just compared yourself to a shark, and we're using boxing as a term, and like the way to defeat a shark is just bop it on the nose. So I think we just have an omen for how this is gonna go.
I would fucking please punch a great white with your fucking arm, please. See how that goes.
I mean, alright. Look, if I'm already in the water with a great white, at what degree is it going to make it any worse?
This is true. I respect your passion, young fighter. Like the shark just fucking stands up and is like, that blow was incredible. Like he's fucking Beerus, is he? He's like, train hard. Fight me again someday.
swims away, and I'm just like, holy
Like,
shit, it
yeah,
fucking
he
worked.
bites you like one bit on the arm, so you've got a scar. He's like, remember this day and come back in 10 years.
Then I'm gonna have to come back, otherwise he's gonna think I'm a bitch. Shit, I don't know. Maybe I should have just died right there.
Exactly. That's just a character arc.
Spent like 9 years thinking, man, do I have to go fight that fucking shark?
Fucking Haley there are like, no! I kind of feel like I have to fuck this
Just never go in the ocean again. Just don't. I'm like, but what if he turns out to be like a street shark? Those guys are fucking jacked. There's a franchise with really great franchise writing. Street
Goddamn,
Sharks.
I need a reboot. I need the gritty reboot.
Yes, please. Alright. Anyway, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I'm the racism metaphor erotica lover.
really could have said the gay erotica lover. You didn't have to. This was your one chance to be sane, man. The fireman erotica lover would have hit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ian, make a sexy fireman thumbnail, but it's on the body of the like this realistic body, and then it's just one of these guys like on the head, like the anime.
Just find like a fireman like calendar.
Yeah, and put the fucking head on. And I am the champion of the oppressed and the burning, apparently.
Yeah.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
Na, 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 na.